Well, welcome back. It's still watching Prime Morning, and my name is Razak Musbawi here at Kweku Asante, my colleague there with fellow Ghanaians. Very strong message on the state of our roads and the constant abandonment of some of these roads. They start and you hear contractors have left site and the road deteriorate further, and then they have to come and start all over again. And sometimes when they have to start all over again, even the cost of the construction increases. And I mean, the state of the Nsawam Pokwasi Road is an eyesore. It's an eyesore. And what it took the indigents of the area to force government to release the money and for the contractor to return to the site is something that must not happen on on an ordinary day. The people had to protest. They hit the streets. Drivers had to lay down their cars and say, we will not drive again until something is done. And then money was released and the contractor returned to the site. This should not be happening. And I think all around the country, contractors have abandoned sites and they have to remobilize. And sometimes it's even better for the road to have remained how it was before the contractors came to the site. Because when they leave, it becomes even worse. And we just hope that things can get better as we get along. It's News Flash, and it's time for us to get into some issues that have been unfolding. And I've got two professors in the studio today. I guess I'm lucky to be having them to share their wealth of knowledge with us this morning. I've got Professor Ayamga, as usual, is the Deputy CEO of UPA, and I've also got Professor Evans also in the studio. Profs, good morning, and I guess I'm blessed to have two professors in the studio today. Aren't I?
Yeah, good morning, Ms. Bar.
Good morning.
It's just a normal day. I don't think it's a blessing to have. We just happen to be professors, that's all. Ghanaians doing our usual.
Amazing. So, Professor Evans Akwesi is also here. He's an associate professor in international trade at the School of Economics, Finance and Law, and in the UK, and Anglia Ruskin University in UK. He also serves as the deputy head of school overseeing undergraduate international business programs and student experience. Prof, good morning.
Good morning, Razak. Good morning to my senior brother. I think I've met him online, so it's quite good to see him in person. And good morning to your cherished viewers as well.
Yeah, wonderful. Really good to have you. We're going to get into the substantive issues, but I just want us to pick from what my colleague Kweku Asante shared on the state of our roads, and you were nodding when he was speaking, Prof.
Yeah. It's quite sad for us to be having such a conversation at this point in time. In the sense that I think the government has talked about the 24-hour economy. Road infrastructure is a key component if this is going to succeed. And I know that the government is only 8 months young, and so the blame cannot be laid at the doorstep of the government. The good thing is that they have acted swiftly, and I think the issue was about mobilization, which money has been released. So we hope that this will be the last of it, that contractors will not abandon the roads that they've received contracts for, and that money can be released timely so that at least we, the passengers, will not suffer for the, I will not say the negligence of people who ought to act, in the interest of the nation.
I mean, when there is transition of power, there are certain things that do not stop. Government services, some government services just continue like it's a normal day. But then when it comes to contract, like road contract, then we hear that there's a directive all contractors should pause, there's going to be an audit, and there's going to be this and that and that. And it's almost every new government engages in that. And when that happens, sometimes some of these roads completely abandoned and they are unattended to. And then a new government comes and says, well, we started it, and when they came, they abandoned it, and we are now come to. Can't we do something about it? Why can't government indeed be continuum and contractors will just continue without some of these breaks?
I think it boils down to transparency. Sometimes most of these contracts are shrouded in secrecy. And as you said, political party will go, Ghana will still remain the same. So yes, your call is very fair in the sense that I think the public pays for these roads. These projects are for the Ghanaian people. NDC will come, NPP will come and go. But these roads are for us. And I think the independence of our state institutions ought to rise up as you said, if there are clear directives in terms of how contracts have been awarded, there were no secrecies, we know where the money will be coming from, whether NDC comes or not, the road should continue. But then in 2016, when NDC exited, all contractors were told to halt, that there was going to be a review. It took some 3-4 years. Even some contractors were not paid. And I think the same trend is being repeated, not at the volume of what we saw in 2016, 2017. But I think that practice ought to stop. Once contracts have been awarded and we know that there's value for money audit, I think whether there's a new government or not, the contractors have to do their job and monies have to be released in the agreed timelines that were established prior to the contract being signed.
And Prof, in the case of this in Southern Pokwasi Road, we understand that what was owed the contractor was to the tune of some $70 million. The government has released that. All right, government has released that. So what was the challenge if the money was there? Because after the GPRTU, the drivers went on strike, the people went to protest. All of a sudden, the money was released, the contractor is back to site, and he said he will complete the project in 9 months. Why then did we have to wait?
Yes, okay. Good morning to our listeners and welcome, Prof. Jesse. It's an interesting interplay of factors. There's the cultural dimension of it that contractors have a certain way of sometimes securing their contracts or doing something just to get mobilization. So sometimes you have a contractor just go into the system, go to the site, clear the road without any plan, just to demonstrate that they are working and just to get certain thresholds triggered and funds released. That is a cultural dimension of it. If you look at the other thing, which is even key, is the tendency for a government, and it has been more particular with the MPP, to grant contracts last minute and then also make payments last minute. So even when contracts are poorly executed, a road that should have taken 3 years, for 3 years nothing has happened, and on the eve of election, the week of elections, the contractor rushes to site, does schedule work and is paid and all those things. When such commitments are made, sometimes they are not even paid, the raise certificates and commitments are made for the next government to come and inherit. You don't expect the government to come and not do due diligence, not do some value for money assessment, and not also even subject the certificates to scrutiny, because sometimes what is being requested doesn't match what has been delivered. So it is a Ghanaian system. It is the failure for us to see government as a continuum that generates this problem. But you see, many of these problems, and it's not only the in Sawan Pokosuru, but it is the entire country. Yeah. It is the economic mismanagement of the last 80 years that eventually led to the cessation of almost all road contracts. Despite the declaration of a year of roads and other things, nothing actually happened. And when this country was driven into a ditch, we went through a debt restructuring, and we were living basically from hand to mouth. I remember some time that you had to wait every day, and then when the Ghana Revenue Authority raises some fund, they take to go and pay emoluments. That's how dire this country sank to. That's how deep we sank into. And contractors were told to fold up. So that is a legacy of...
We've had some roads that were started as far back as, even 10 years. And even as we speak now, they've still not been completed. And you wonder why... You wonder why we are in such a situation. And sometimes, I sometimes wonder, if we don't have the money for the project, why then do we go and start it in the first place? Why don't we use our monies for the projects that we have, instead of starting, paying 20%, paying 15%, paying 30%, and when the contractor reaches a certain level, he says, well, if you don't pay the remaining amount, I'm going to abandon it. He abandons it until he gets some money, then returns to the site. If you don't have the money for it, why then do we start it? Why don't we do the basics? Maybe fill it with gravels, level it. When we have the money to put that coal tower on it, then we do it. I mean...
Yeah, I think the question dovetails into what Prof. Jesse just mentioned. It has been very difficult for contractors that were perceived to have been aligned to the NDC. And for in 2016, many of them, some are still waiting to be paid. They were sidelined, their contracts, some taken and re-awarded. And was a very difficult moment for many of these contractors, and the citizens are paying the price for this winner take all and this desire to tag contractors and then punish them. So that is what we are paying for.
Well, let me Prof, let me acknowledge the presence of Dr. Benny Asher. He's a lecturer with the University of Professional Studies. Doc, UPSA. Doc, good morning. If you can hear me, just want to touch base with you. I hope you can hear me clearly. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. I can hear you. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yeah, wonderful. Great, Doc. Well, good to have you. I'll come to you very shortly. We're just talking about, this incessant thing with, new government terminating or halting road contracts and then, auditing them, starting them all over again. And while all of this is going on, the discomfort that it brings the people in that area. So I'll just come to you, your thoughts on that. With particular reference is the Nsawam Pokwasi Road and what the people had to go through, the protest that had to happen before the contractor had to return to site. So I'll come to you very briefly on the Prof, just if you can land.
Yes, so I think that government must be commended for even finding the money to bring the contractor back to site. And regardless of the alignment and the posture of the contractor, we have released the money for the road to continue. Years ago, this demonstration wouldn't have led. I mean, if you rewind back to a year ago, this demonstration wouldn't have led to anything because there was basically no money. So we need to look at things and place things in the right context. That yes, the thing is a cultural thing that contractors do, but also the economic fortunes of the country were likely to blame for it. And of course, standards are key here, as you rightly mentioned. Can we probably adopt a phased approach to doing these contracts? Because you normally award a contract of 200, 300 kilometers. When the contractor actually can't do it, and then they come to clear the whole road, and then they go back to sit. I think that we need to begin to enforce the standards. But great. As I said, we need not to take out the politics factor in it. Yeah,
great. Doc, it's a very interesting point Prof is making about the politicization of contracts and even contractors. And that seemed to be manifested in the way some of our projects are handled. So they say this contractor is NDC, this contractor is MPP, and sometimes they are denied the money that they are due. And so these contractors abandon sites. And when they abandon the sites, is the people in the area where the road is being constructed that end up suffering. And we saw that in the case of the people in the Nsawam Pokwasi stretch.
Good morning, and thank you for having me, and another good morning to my colleague over there. It is a real shame, to be honest, that we live in a country of, in the 21st century, where the disbursement of state funds can be so disrupted by political affiliation. How is it possible that a road that connects Accra to the northern parts of West Africa, how can that road be politicized? I mean, it's nearly it's scandalous for anybody in their right mind to say that I have, I've been removed from power, and because of that, I am deliberately going to stop or will not continue with such a vital project. To be honest, I have to give every politician in this country the benefit of the doubt when it comes to this, because if I do not grant that benefit of doubt, then such politicians are clearly maniacal. These are maniacs then. That you could so play politics as to play with such a vital national infrastructure. So I like to think that nobody does that. Now, if nobody does that, then it must be an issue of management and monitoring, or indeed it must be it could be one of accounting, where the person claims that they haven't been paid. If they haven't been paid, they haven't been paid. it's not the first sector in Ghana that faces people that work without being paid. The national service system, all national service personnel start work and go into 10 months into the year before their pay comes. Yet the government, who is the employer most of the time in national service, requires that people go.
Yeah.
They have to attend. So this is not the first time this has happened, where people do work for, and government payment from government is so delayed or is not forthcoming that they are hard pressed to make a decision. And sometimes they make such drastic decisions. Now, if that is the case, well, then that's incompetence on the part of government, which has to be corrected. There is no need. These people in this area do not need to be subjected to this kind of treatment. If you can't finish the project, do not start. If you're rolling out a power app with your ECG and you're rolling out a power app, and you're not ready for the infrastructure that comes with that, don't roll it out. Test it first. Don't inconvenience people.
Yeah, and I think and Doc, I think that's profound, because that's the point I was making to Prof, that why don't we approach our road development in phases, all right? Instead of trying to do every road all together, select some roads, do them, based on the funds available. Because it does appear that we start project, we know we don't have the funds. And I think the roads minister made that point, that if you look at the debt in the road sector compared to the budgetary allocation to the road ministry as just last year, it's incredible. They have maybe about $20 billion was allocated to them. Yet, if you look at the contract they entered into, in excess of $100 billion. And you wonder, why do we do this to ourselves then? If you have $20 billion, why don't you focus on projects that the $20 billion can afford? Shouldn't that be the best approach to some of these projects?
Well, if you're going by tight accounting theory, it should be. But sometimes the government bases these things on forecasts. And they forecast, most of the things government has to make educated forecasts into the future. So you predict that, in the next fiscal year, this is what I'm going to be able to raise. The question is, should that be the guarantee of a contract that far surpasses your term of office? Because obviously at election, nobody knows what's going to happen. Well, in a sense it should, because if the government has signed a contract, then the state has signed a contract.
Yeah.
Sovereign Ghana that has signed this contract. And therefore, any other person that comes must honor it. And if they come and they realize that the processes that were used were not right by the previous government, then whoever is responsible must be asked questions. Questions must be directed. But listen, if anybody, I don't know the minds of politicians in Ghana, but if there's any politician who actually sits and plans how not to carry on with national projects is going to be done if they are out of political office. That politician is not fit to be called a Ghanaian.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. Doc, just still on, spending money and making sure that we make good use of the limited revenues that we have. In fact, the president is in Japan, and he's been making the points about the big push and the fact that, our revenues might not be able to fund the big push holistically. And so he's looking for some external funds to try and support the big push and all of that. Of course, $10 billion, we don't have $10 billion to fund that. So we'll have to find some external funding. But closely linked also is the retooling of the military and significantly the purchase of the presidential jet. It's one issue that has been on the table, and it's resurfaced following the president's travel to Japan. And we understand the transit he had to make to Dubai. And we understand there's some 22 hours involved when ordinarily you could have done a journey of 8 to 10 hours. Again, it boils down to this politicization of critical issues. Something like the president's jet, if we were able to avoid the partisanship that came with the politics surrounding it, maybe the president, ordinarily wouldn't have risked his safety the way he did. He flew in Emirates, to understand. And if we want to talk about the safety of the president, ordinarily, the president shouldn't be in that flight. And his entourage, they should not be in that flight. They should be in the presidential jet whose safety can be guaranteed. We know that the state is taking care of this. We know that maybe it's an Air Force person who is flying this. President security, everything is as far as the aircraft is concerned, it is, it is crafted to the safety requirements of the president. But the private, public, Emirate flight, obviously is for commercial services. And it will not have the kind of security architecture we want. Again, it has to do with politics. We know the Foreign Affairs Minister, a member of Parliament, Honorable Ukujidapolakwa, he has come under a lot of heat because of his past advocacy, but he says he's not apologizing for it. He's not apologizing for it. And in fact, he stands by it. But we need to take our politics, because something like this, we can't risk the president's safety on a commercial flight.
Yeah, I think, Razak, we need to really discuss this in context. I think Okujato, during his days where he was raising alarm in terms of how Nana Akufo-Addo was renting private jet and what have you, when the presidential jet was in a good condition. The presidential jet was purchased in 2010. We know as of now, it has significant safety concerns. The options are three. Either we wait and repair it, or we buy a new one, or we rent, or we hire a private jet. Looking at the financial constraint and position that we find ourselves, I think it is up to the Ghanaian people to decide which way to go. In the short term, we may save some few thousands of dollars if the president chooses to go with commercial flight. But in the long term, at what cost do we want to do that? We're talking about the reputation of the country and the danger we put the president in. I just read on the news, I think 2 days ago, when Putin visited
Alaska.
And we saw not only the presidential jet, but the other auxiliary flight that were following him.
Yeah.
I don't think it's wastage.
No.
I think they put premium on the security of the number one person in the land. I think it's about time, if you ask me of my opinion in terms of what is the way forward. I believe that if we think that the Falcon 900EX is not fit for purpose, let's discard it. Let's buy a new one. In the long run, we can do the analysis. What will be the lifespan of a new presidential jet? 10 years? How much are we going to save? So I think that conversation ought to be had.
Yeah.
And as you said, the over-politicization of these things are the reasons why we are where we are.
It's like both political divide can't seem to reach a consensus on this thing. Because it should be easy.
Yeah.
It should be easy for the MPP and NDC to agree that, look, this is the way forward. Let's rally together. Let's get the buy-in of the Ghanaian public and deal with this issue. Because you talk about the lifespan of a presidential jet. I understand the Air Force One, the USA presidential jet. It's been in existence for 34, 35 years now.
Yeah.
34, 35 years now, and it's still running. All right, so even questions could be asked about the maintenance of our Falcon, etc., whether we maintained it well, because we understand that fuel tank is corroded, etc. But fundamentally, we need to prioritize the safety of the president, especially coming back from what happened some days ago with our defense minister.
That's right. And I was about to say that because Omar Obama is somebody I know personally. I've known him for about since 2008, and he's helped me in diverse ways. So are we willing to sacrifice the lives of people before we act? The answer is no. And I think we don't want to sacrifice the life of the president. So I think that it is about time that all parties come together and the nation has to come to a consensus that, yes, this is the way we need to go. We need a presidential jet. And then, of course, one of the issues that may crop up when it comes to the securing of these presidential jets is maybe in terms of the price and what have you. We can have a bipartisan approach. I know it to go to Parliament, and all political parties are represented there. They can scrutinize it and make sure that we get a private jet that is fit for purpose, that has a longer time span to be able to carry whoever is the president, at any point in time, so that at least the safety of our dignitaries can be secured. I think the Z9, I don't know whether what I read was right or not, that the lifespan of the Z9 was almost coming to an end.
And I thought it was 15 years.
And this disaster struck. So I don't think we would want to put the lives of the president and any other dignitary in danger by flying in an aircraft which has corrosion all over and what have you. So
and Prof, look, these commercial flights, we've seen even as recent as 2 months or 3 months ago what happened in India, their commercial flight. I'm sure you heard about it. It took off and the issues it had. We just cannot entrust the safety of the president in a commercial flight. When the vice president was ill, was in the UK, what he was returning, it was a private jet who brought her down. So why do you think, Prof, there is difficulty in achieving some consensus among the political divide so that we can secure the safety of our president?
Well, let me be very honest with you. This is more about politics than the president's travel. Let me be very frank with you. President Mahama is not the first president to travel by a commercial flight.
Yes.
And the security of the president depends largely on the security architecture around the president, not the aircraft he uses. And if the security apparatus thinks that it is possible to arrange our security architecture in such a way that can secure the president's travel in a commercial flight, so be it. The reason we are having this discussion is because a certain president wastefully dissipated scarce national resources on a luxury jet with a bathroom in the air. And because he wants to equate a president that is modest and knowing that the times is not right to live that way, he wants some equalization. And thinks that, okay, 6 months, 7 months into this government, we are not seeing the scandals that were associated with us. Can we make noise out of something? That is why we are talking about this thing today. Of course, in Akufo-Addo's first time, by this time, the Sky Train had made 2 trips. The Tema Railway from Tema to Paga had completed. Of course, the Almighty King, the president, had descended from Mount Chebi with tablets of the drawings of the biggest pawn he wanted. You could count the scandals on and on and on and on. They can't find anything, so they're looking through a haystack for a needle. And that's why we are having this discussion. President Mahama is not the first person. And the president, who is a specialist at building infrastructure, is thinking of, yes, is it possible I can maybe make this trip on Emirates and save some $200,000-$300,000?
Is it ideal?
It is not ideal. It is secure. The times calls for sacrifice, and the president has been leading that time. When it is time for us to buy a presidential jet, we will buy it whether the minority likes it or not. But we think that at this moment in time, we need to consolidate the gains. Look at what has happened to the economy. Look at the turnaround, that leadership that the president has ushered into this country has done to the economy. That is what we should be focusing on.
But if we
He's telling everybody...
If we get a private jet to bring down the vice president, why couldn't we get one to take the president?
So that's why I said we can't have this discussion, because if the movement necessitates it, we'll do it. When we launched that one Ghana CD for petroleum, and media and everybody and the MPP tried to cause a turmoil in this country, the people of this country resisted them and said, given what the government has done, we are willing to take out this. That's why the story died, and even though some media houses and politicians wanted to whip it up, I think that the people of this country have seen the sacrifice of the president, and if he chose to fly a presidential jet, it won't be any political scandal like we have seen in the past. Prof. Jesse said something that I want to just tie into what I'm going to say here. That the reason why President Mahama is flying a commercial flight today is because of the choices of the former president and the former government to focus on renting expensive jets and left the presidential jet to be used as an Uber by their families for birthday parties and the rest. The current state of the presidential jet is as a result of the neglect. The maintenance and everything is a result of the neglect because people chose to spend more on flying luxury private jets instead of maintaining the. And I believe that if President Akufo-Addo had not spent all those monies in flying luxury jets, they could have purchased the presidential jet. They dug a hole.
You mean the money they spent on?
Yes, those monies you could have used it to.
It's not.
No. It's a long term.
We know how much
it's a long term thing. It's a long term thing. If I know that, of course, I'm going to be doing presidential private jets and given the quantum of money, I can probably get some money somewhere here and there to get some payment plan and acquire it.
Try and get a private jet. 2022, that conversation came up, and of course, your side, and in an interview with TV3, Honorable Kojo Tapulako made it clear that his side and the entire minority at the time were not going to support any move by the government to buy a presidential jet. If that move had been supported, today we would not even be having this conversation because the president would have conveniently.
That was because the presidential jet was in good shape.
But today we've seen the state of it.
The state of it is because of the neglect. That's what I'm saying. And sometimes you can buy these presidential jets or just with a payment plan. So if we had not chosen that extreme luxury, unnecessary luxury, we would have maintained the aircraft. And that is what we should be talking about. And we should be commending the president, not condemn, for thinking that as for this trip, I can make it in a commercial.
I don't think it's more of condemnation. It's more of concern about the safety of the president. Whether the president should be flying in the
president is not kept safe by the flight he's using. It's kept safe by the security apparatus.
But you know, if you telling you that jet, you know this jet, you know the condition of the jet, you know whoever is handling the jet, guaranteed safety. You don't have the luxury of going to inspect a commercial flight. No. Will Emirates allow you to go and inspect Emirates flight before you get inside? No. You can only trust their track record. That, they've flown this, they've done this number of flights, but you can't go and inspect it.
I think that no flight will be allowed to take off if it is not flight worthy. You think that because the president is going on it, Emirates will now take maybe his flight maintenance more seriously? No. Every life on Emirates is viewed equally, and the maintenance definitely schedules will be maintained. And I can tell you that definitely there will be some checks. We won't put our president on any jet that we cannot check.
And so let me go to Doc now. Doc, what's your take on all of this? Well,
it's a lot to think about, to be honest. But I struggle to understand what the issue is. The president has chosen to fly to Japan by, going on commercial instead of either flying a presidential jet or hiring a jet. But what's wrong with that?
I say his safety.
We are a poor country, all right? And the president is an individual in this country. The safety of president is as important as the safety of the individual that lives in Sawam Road, which is still unpassable. Okay?
Yeah.
So to say that the president has flown commercial, this is a commendable thing to do, and I would have thought that, rather than question why, we would actually commend the president.
But is this something that should be encouraged, though? Should that be the norm? Should that be the norm? If the safety of the president should be prioritized at all, should that be the norm?
Let me answer the question of should that be the norm? Should it be the norm that instead of driving your child to school in a BMW, you choose to go by trotro because you genuinely can't afford to buy a BMW? You have to make hard choices. I heard you making references to Russia and the United States. These are not people we should be comparing ourselves to. There is no shame if the president of Ghana, a country that is well, these days they say we're middle-income countries, but essentially we're a poor country. There's no shame with the president traveling on a commercial jet. There's nothing. This is a commendable thing.
But Doc, there is a reason why we spend, what do you call it?
Yes.
We spend how much? Yeah,
there's a reason why
we spend how much we do on the president's safety, the president's well-being. It's because he's an important person in the scheme of things. And so even when it comes to his transport, that's why even when he's in the country, when he's traveling, we see the convoy that follows him. It's because of his safety and his security. And that's maybe why some people are raising concerns about not normalizing the president traveling on commercial jet because of his safety again.
Well, I'm saying that when it comes to life, safety, we go to the bottom line of human existence. Everybody's life is important and precious to them. And of course, we appoint people and they are given a certain amount of priority, but it doesn't cut down to the base where most people would be saying, okay, fine, let's keep this person safe and then let me be on any particular, be in danger. That's not how human beings think. What I'm saying to you is that it's a matter of affordability. Are we in a position to afford these things? Are we in a position as a country to afford the V8 Land Cruisers that we use? How can we afford it? That as a third world country, as a country in our status, in our financial status, our ministers are allocated bigger cars than European countries. And then we say that we have a reputation to protect. What reputation do we have in the scheme of world geopolitics? That we're so bent on defending that we would go hungry for. What exactly is it? What's our role in the world?
So Doc, will you advocate a policy where
it makes economic sense?
So will you advocate a policy where every president should be taking a commercial flight? Do you think that should be the policy going forward?
It should be driven by financial considerations. If that's what we can afford, that's what we can afford.
So it's
as simple as that.
So the whole call for a presidential jet, you don't buy into that?
No. I'm saying that does it make financial sense that you have the Accra Kumasi Road in this shape, and then you would decide to go and buy a presidential jet? You have to make a choice. I wouldn't. I know that if I was president, I wouldn't make that choice. I would go on a 22-hour flight. Yes, it's painful. Yes, your joints hurt. Yes, you have to walk a bit in the aisle. But that's the situation that people who can't afford private transportation have to endure. We have to make our choices. So it's not a strange thing. So yes, then I would rather say, okay, let's put that money into the Sawam Road. Because that's not, I couldn't say that my 22-hour comfort is more than the Sawam Road. I couldn't say that. I couldn't justify it morally. So there is no issue here. If we can afford a presidential jet, by all means do. This is not the first time. This is not the first time the governments of Ghana have rented jets or flown on jets or bought jets. From Kwame Nkrumah right through to the present time, in all of the political parties of the various hues, they have bought presidential jets. It's just a matter of we've not been able to maintain it. We don't maintain anything. As I sit here, there's a relatively brand new road in front of my home here, and in that place, I drive past it, and I've seen potholes come up, and I probably should take a photographic, chronicle of how that pothole is going to destroy this thing. We don't do that, and then we keep going back to the same, issue. So if we should be driven by affordability. I tell you, it does not make sense the kind of priorities we make. If we go by Ghana's GDP per capita, if we go by that, it's not a shameful thing that our politicians or our presidents sit in Suzuki I-10. It's not below us. It's not. If our president was driven in a horse and a cart, it will not be below our status.
But Doc, wouldn't that be a bit in the extreme, horse and cart?
Well, it will be in the extreme,
yes.
Of course, adjustments will be made to that, because obviously he's the president.
Yeah.
And certain facilities must be provided. But what I'm saying is that in the wider scheme of things, we are not that important to be trying to show off this so-called reputation to world leaders. When an American president comes to Ghana, they know they're coming to a poor country. They know this. So whether you're driving, I can guarantee you, no American president is going to come to Ghana and then be shocked if the president was being driven around in a pickup. They wouldn't be shocked. If they read the economics of Ghana, they'll be saying, all right, okay, that's fine. That makes sense. It makes sense that a country such as this would have leaders driving around in a pickup. We don't have any point to prove. You make a point to prove when your people are okay. Then you can prove a point. So if the president has gone on a private jet, I commend it. He's made a sacrifice on the basis of economics, and that should be commended. There's no. Well, as the honourable gentleman said, flights are. This is the safest form of transport in the world. That's airline flight, and of course, they're not going to lower their standards because or increase their standards because this particular person is aboard. These are standard operating procedures that they have to follow for air safety. So they will do that. I mean, it may be that there'll be a bit of discomfort on there because you can't organize yourself as much as you can in terms of planning what the agenda is and so and so. But this is a sacrifice. We all do that all the time when we go on a chop shop. We do that.
So the president. It shouldn't be a problem if the president is doing that, right? Great.
No. I mean, it should be commended. We should be jumping for joy that the president is doing. That's what we should be doing.
Well, all right. We'll wait to see if that is going to be the norm going forward, if the president is going to stick to this. But it will be interesting. Prof, you want to say something?
Yes, I wanted to. I think you just took the words out of my mouth. I think the question now is, for how long would President John Mahama going to fly with commercial flights?
Because we've seen him fly with his brother's jet a few times.
And I think one thing is, presidential jets are not luxury. I consider them as a basic necessity for every country, if you can afford it. Look at the transit time and all of that, president engagement and what have you. So I believe that, yes, we may not be up there in terms of having the financial muscles, but I think if you set the priorities right, it is about time. I would advocate personally was to look into finding ways to secure one. Why? Because the question now is, if the president would want to travel on Emirates every now and then, are we going to screen every passenger who will be on the flight? Yes, there may be security people around him. Do we know if anybody has ill intent on that particular flight? No amount of money.
They say before even you get onto the flight, there are security checks at the airport that you have to go through. Shouldn't that suffice? Do you need to do some extra checks? Because if you have something metallic or something dangerous on you, I'm sure there are checks you go through, no more checks in there.
We should not forget 9/11. People hijack a plane, kill the passengers on board, and achieve the outcome that they wanted. I think not until disaster struck, then we'll begin to come to the drawing board, and then we talk about what if we could have done this and what have you. Yes, Ghana is not up there, I think I reckon. But then I see presidential jet to be a basic necessity for a country. And not least a person than the first gentleman of the land. I'm not saying that the president should not fly on, commercial flights. Yes, if it's 1 or 2 times in a year, that's fair enough. But that should not be a routine. And that is the argument I'm putting forward.
It should not be a routine.
It shouldn't, for security reasons. I want people to convince me that, okay, we'll do extra checks. But the point is, you can't decide who flies on Emirates. Anybody at all can book and jump on the airline.
Yeah.
And it just takes somebody who is just.
And I'm guessing the president will be in the first class, right?
Yeah.
I'm guessing you'll be in the first class. And if you'll be in the first class, I'm guessing the first class will not be exclusive to the president.
No. So there are security issues that we need to think about. And I believe that in the long run, that conversation ought to be had. If the existing Falcon is not fit for purpose, let's discard it and buy a new one. And in the meantime, in short domestic flight, maybe the president can use his brother's airplane. International flight, I'm looking forward to seeing if that trajectory will continue in terms of flying commercial. But I believe that it's about time.
Do you get an indication this will be the routine for the president?
It's going to be a mix of options.
What options?
As we say, and I've maintained here, that we hold ourselves to a higher standard. And the MPP is not a standard that we want to compare ourselves. So this decision to fly a commercial jet was based on the president's choice and the security apparatus. And I can tell you, it's just not that easy to put the president anywhere. Even me, a government appointee now, if I want to go and meet the president, what they will take me through will not be the same as any person I'm going to visit. So they won't just move our president into a commercial flight if we cannot secure it. But I'm saying that the economy is improving. We are stabilizing it. Now is not the time to make rash choices and go back to doing things as if we are a very, very, very wealthy country in terms of the economic numbers. Resources, yes, but we all know the situation.
But some say isn't a double standard. If you say that, because, for instance, they cite the case of the vice president. You rented a private jet for the vice president to come to the country. Then the president uses a commercial jet. But you say the reason why the president...
That's why I say it's a mix of options. Yeah. The vice president was returning from a medical leave, and the situation necessitated that we rent a private jet for her. We did. If the president is going to a country where we think that he has to go with a private jet, we'll rent that jet. And the people of this country would know that this president deserves to fly a presidential jet, given what he has done in 8 months. And given the fact that we have been brought here, and I said we have been brought here by the recklessness of the past regime. Those asking him to go on a presidential jet now neglected the Falcon. They neglected it. Their daughters were using it to fly their friends for birthday parties. Well, they are talking of rust.
No, but Doc,
they are talking of rust in the tank. Yeah. Just a fuel tank, rust. I mean, who allows that to happen? So it shows the culture of maintenance. And where we are today is as a result of people's choices. They shouldn't now try to tell us that the president should have probably gone on a private jet. Yes, we could have taken it, but the president felt that, okay, at this point in time, should we not be focusing on making savings? And should I, the president, go on, let's say, a private jet, very, very expensive ones, when I am advocating that people live modestly? Where it is not possible.
About it being given out for people to use for birthday, I mean, I think that came up, I remember, but yes, it could not be substantiated.
I'm saying that people were flying the president. They were using it as an Uber for their short-term trips and other things.
But this is a jet that was in the hands of the Air Force. So how do you go in there and pick it up?
Yes, that shows how deep the country sank into a jet in the hands of the Air Force.
Because I remember there was a point when the brother of the president was accused of using it, and he sued a reporter for that, and he had to go and apologize for the matter.
Exactly. So why didn't they sue those who made that story? Because there was some truth to it. I don't want us to go there. All I'm saying is that we will buy a presidential jet when the economy allows us. For now, the president will use a mix of options to travel, whether it is commercial, private jet, or maybe also relying on his brother's jet to travel.